105, 1949. She has 1,500 horsepower output to her. She's an RS2, the only RS2 running with her original engine. Then we have 109. 109 was built in 1950. She's an RS3, and she has 1,600 horsepower output to her. And then right behind you, we have locomotive 201. She was built in 1951. She has 1,600 horsepower output to her. She is an RSD4.
What's this one in the middle here, just a patriotic looking?
So this is locomotive 250. 250 was originally 4426 on the Southern Pacific Line. She then went to BHP for ore hauling services, and she was repainted and recolored as number 204. We recently repainted her and renumbered her to 250 for America 250, the semi-quincentennial of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Now, I said earlier that being a National Historic Landmark, we cannot change the paint schemes of the locomotives unless we have proof that that locomotive had that paint scheme at some point, right? Well, in 2004, I want to say, is when 204/250 was donated to us. So since she's not an original engine, we can do whatever we please with her. So why not be red, white, and blue? And she'll keep this paint scheme until probably 2027, and then we will change her back to her original paint scheme when she was on the Southern Pacific Line, which of course is now just the Union Pacific. I say these things because at the time we still had the Western and Southern Pacific. So it just really depends on who you're talking to and what time frame you're in. Now it is of course just the Union Pacific. Okay. We are going to migrate over here, and we'll talk about our Baldwin locomotives. So we have 801 over here and 802 over here. 801 was built in 1942. They are Baldwin locomotives. They are the eldest diesels we have. We just started 802 for the first time in the middle of September, which was pretty cool. Because before that she hasn't ran once. So we started her up and we wanted to see how she sounded so we can make repairs as necessary so we can have another locomotive running. 801 here, she was used as a switcher in McGill. So she would bring the empty ore cars from the smelter down, and one of the other locomotives would bring the full ore cars, and they would literally switch. So that's why she's called a switcher. She's a VO 1000. She only has 1,000 horsepower output to her. And she was overworked. So she runs very, very loudly, very aggressively, and she couples pretty hard. It could be the smoothest, calmest couple the engineer could ever pull off, and she'll still push the cars back. It's just how she is. Okay. So we don't discriminate.
They have their own personality. Right?
Yep. They always do.
Okay, and then this is
802, like I said, we started her for the first time in the beginning of September. I don't know a whole lot about her because she hasn't run up until this point, so I will be learning a whole lot more soon. Okay, let me find the best route for us to see the things in the back. I'll have you stay put for a sec. Okay. So this is our wrecking crane. It was built in 1909 by the Bay City, Michigan Industrial Works. She has a 100-ton capacity to her. And we'll go to the other side and see her builder's plate, but this is the best spot to get a good view. It is steam powered, but how do we get it to move along the tracks?
What's that?
She's steam powered, but how do we move her?
I guess you got to have the locomotive hooked up to it, right?
Yep. Yeah. So just because something is powered one way doesn't mean it can move by itself. So they are not self-propelled. The steam crane and the snowplow, which we'll get to in just a minute, they both have to have a locomotive pushing them. So now we're going to look at what we call a builder's plate. The builder's plate tells you where it was built. We can see Industrial Works in Bay City, Michigan, 1907. Number 1789, builders. Capacity with outriggers, 80 tons at 20 feet radius. With auxiliary lines, 15 tons with single line, 30 tons with block. So this tells you everything you need to know about the locomotive, or the equipment pretty much. All the locomotives also have builder's plate, so we can actually come over to 201 right here, and we can see her builder's plate. So, May 1951, American Locomotive Company, General Electric Company. I can't read that. Yeah.
I'm from back east, so I've heard
okay,
of that.
good. So sometimes it'll have even the engineer who built the locomotive. So it really just depends on the brand and how they like their builder's plate to look. But the most basic information is you have to have who it was built by, so the company it was built by, where it was built, and the year and date it was built. So the wrecking crane is pretty cool. She is operational. We get her out for our photo shoots, and we do demonstrations during photo shoots. We get her out during Memorial Day and during 4th of July as well, and do some demonstrations. And all we really do is pick up boxcars.
And I guess this car here goes with it, and this has all the equipment that you need.
Yep. So this is what we call a tool car. So it has the outriggers, it has extra chains, it has blocks, pretty much anything you need. And then we can actually look at the bottom of the crane here, and we have riggers here and more right here. And we can see there's some cable and stuff lined up. So it's very intricate work. All right, let's venture over to the plow. Yes. So this is our rotary snowplow. She was built in 1907 by the ALCO, by the American Locomotive Company. Of course, it works as any snowplow would, but it's just about 10 times the size. So the blades here, they go back and forth. They shudder back and forth, just like that, while spinning in a clockwise motion. So it's spinning and it's shuddering, all of that fun stuff, and it's spinning so fast it shoots the snow out the top 33 feet past the tracks. So unfortunately we don't use the plow. Everything that is steam powered, because she is steam powered, everything that is steam powered has a layer of cotton to help retain the heat, so you're not constantly fighting with with your steam, right? Unfortunately, some oil got caught in the cotton and it almost caught fire. We were able to catch it, but we don't want to start her up again in fear of it catching fire. So we do run her on air and we get her out for photo opportunities as well, but we'd rather keep her how she is and just let it be.
Okay. Let's see.
Yes. All right, we're gonna snake right behind over here. We're gonna go take a look at the back end of locomotive 40. Okay, if you stand right here, you can see all the way through the firebox, all the way through the holes for the boiler tubes.
Yeah, you can. Yep, all the way through. Neat.
All right, we're gonna go through this door. This door leads us back into the machine shop. For just a second before we pivot, we come through to the boiler shop. So these are the boilers that would heat the entire building.
Okay.
And deliver steam to any of the machinery that was steam powered. When we come up the ramp.
Are they still in use?
No.
They're not using it.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
We primarily just use air. And now we are in the blacksmith shop. Do you remember at the beginning when I said this building was expanded in 1917?
Right.
How do I know this room is the expansion?
Probably because there's a dirt floor for one thing.
Well, the dirt floor actually serves a purpose, and it's not dirt, it's sand.
It's sand. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How do I notice it? I don't know how.
So for starters, we go from cinder blocks in the walls to bricks, And there's a huge elephant in the room.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
So this is our steam hammer, and we have all the controls right here. So they all do different things. I'm not a machinist. I don't know. I apologize. I work in the office. But this steam hammer has a drop of 1,200 pounds. They had to build around the hammer. Otherwise, they would have to use a crane and lift it in. So instead, they went smarter, not harder, and just built around it. So the foundation underneath is actually wood, because concrete would just shatter immediately. That's part of the reason why the floor in here is sand versus concrete, but the real reason is because concrete is a very porous material. If you have over 1,000-degree burning metal drop and fall onto your concrete, and say there's a patch of water, it's stuck down in beneath, and that metal gets caught in that water, that's freezing cold. So instead of having potholes everywhere you work, when a piece of metal were to fall into the sand, we get clinkers. And so you can see here, it's really light, but in some parts of it, it's actually starting to shine. And that's where the sand has turned into glass because of the heat. And then we have a piece of slag here. So we have 2 fireboxes in here that you can see. So this slag actually comes from this firebox here. So there's a little hole down here at the bottom, and that's where our fire comes from. And then on the side of the firebox itself is a big old hole. At the bottom of the hole, we use a tool to pull out the slag, because if you have too much slag, you won't be able to have a fire. In here, we have a white powder. It is flux. See if we can see it a little bit better.
Yeah.
So flux is, it's used to pull the impurities out of your metal. If your metal has too many impurities and you're trying to stick those 2 pieces of metal together, it's not going to work. So if you've ever done any wiring work and if you've noticed inside the casing of the wire, there's kind of a white powder substance. It's flux, and it's to help keep all the impurities off of the metal, so you can have clean metal in case you have to put it together in some place. So the tools you see in the room, some were purchased, some were built in this room. It really just depends, but I can tell you that when you got the blueprints for the locomotive you just received, you also got the blueprints for the tools you needed to build that locomotive. So it really just depends on who the blacksmith was and his level of experience, if he was able to build the tools. Otherwise, they'd be purchased. And I'm sure we've purchased some tools from some other railroads at some point. We have a big black box over here. Do you know what it might be?
Sorry, well, it's some kind of oven, I guess, right?
Kinda. Close. It's a firebox from a scrap steam locomotive.
Oh.
It serves no purpose.
It's just sitting here.
It's just sitting here.
Yeah.
We have tried to look in the archives and everything to see if we could figure out why it's in here. Our best assumption is decoration. Now, they could have used it as a kiln of some sort, but the butt end of it is sitting outside and it goes through the wall. So I don't know why you'd get it hot and risk burning the building down.
I was going to say, how'd they get it in here?
They built around it.
Okay.
And then I've also had people tell me, oh, well, it could have been for heat. Well, you have a pit right here, you have a pit right here, and you have a potbelly stove.
Right.
So I don't know, this would be the hottest room in the shop, so I don't know why you'd want more heat. And then back over here, we have all these giant rings. These are the rings that we use to heat up the wheels on locomotive 40. So when I explain the wheels of a locomotive, think about your car, right? You have your rubber tire and then the metal wheel. Well, with the locomotives, it's all metal, right? So there's the tire, which has the flange on it. You can take that off and you get the wheel bed, and it's still metal, right? But we took the tire off, and in the wheel bed, there was cracks along the wheel beds. So they have to be repaired, and those are getting repaired right now. It's kind of hard to see, but back behind these rings is a quenching box. So you fill that thing up with cool oil or cool water. To my understanding, when you are quenching, oil is preferred preferred because it changes the molecules of the metal, it prevents rust, and it makes the metal harder, so it'll last a lot longer. So it's the preferred method for quenching. You can use water, but it just depends.
What's this thing?
It's a TV that describes what the room is, but the shop guys got really annoyed with it, so they turned it off.
Okay, it's a modern thing.
Yeah, it's just a TV.
Okay.
So we're going to come in here and see our final piece. This is our shear.
Whoa.
I've had somebody try to argue with me one time that this was steam powered, but if you look on that back wall, you can see the fuse box, so I don't see how it would be steam.
It's electric, yeah. Yeah, there's no, I can tell with this hammer, right?
Yeah.
So there's a pipe that connects to the boilers and you get steam, but I don't see that here.
All we have on it is stability. So, yeah.
Okay.
So this piece right here, this is the blade. It looks like that's where a piece, it could be holding the blade, right? But this itself, these two pieces are the blades. This shear can cut through an inch thick worth of metal. Wow. It's pretty crazy. And you can see some of the pieces here. I'm not going to touch them, but you can see just how wide some of these pieces really are.
Huh. Pretty neat.
So,
I wonder, could you spin this?
So this wheel right here, it moves to generate the power. So it takes up to 2 minutes to start spinning and 8 minutes to stop.
Huh. Okay.
This room is kind of just an extra room, like a garage. It's not used for very much. It was also part of the expansion, but it doesn't really have, it's just kind of here.
Okay.
So the shear is the most important part. I guess we can also talk about the patterns on the wall. So up on the wall, there's all these giant gears and wheels and stuff. I can assure you that they are wooden.
Oh, wow.
So these are the foundry patterns. At the foundry, they would take these pieces and they'd shove them into damp sand, let it dry, take the piece out, and pour metal into it, into the shape that the piece just left behind. So they are all wood. None of them are going to fall on us. And there's more over here as well. The foundry was located in McGill. And an interesting thing about the foundry is it wasn't the same division of Kennecott as the rest of the railroad was. So the mill and smelter was a different division as the foundry. So we don't have any information on it, unfortunately. But when Kennecott was closing everything down, they had these pieces and they said, either you take them or we're going to burn them. And we said, well, we might need them one day, so we're going to take them. Yeah. And so we did. And they just kind of hang out.
Cool. Yeah, I would have never guessed they were wood.
Oh, yeah. If I have little kids on a tour, I make them hold one of the pieces. It'd give the parents a little bit of a scare.
Okay.
Other than that, we're all done.
Awesome. That's been excellent. You've been so informative, and I appreciate you taking the time to show me around and tell us everything about the railroad and some of the operations and things that go on here. Very, very good.
Of course. No worries. If you have any questions, I am not a machinist or a mechanic, so I can't answer a lot of those questions. But the guys in the shop, they're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay.
So you are free to roam around here for however long you'd like. Your museum pass is good for the day.
Okay.
So you can hang out down here some more. You can pretty much do whatever you'd like.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to walk around a little bit outside.
Yeah.
I'll take a couple of still pictures. And again, I really, really appreciate all your time.
Yeah, of course.
All your information. You've been great.
Thanks.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.